Lilui Nishmas Nomi Bas Yaakov. We read in the parish of Thomas Sarah Kiryas Arba. It says Sarah died in Kiryas Arba. He Chevron, there it's Canaan, and that is in Chevron, in the land of Canaan. And it says V'yava Avraham nispoid l'Sara v'livkoisa. It says Avraham came to eulogize Sarah and to cry for her. V'achrei kein kava Avraham es Sarah ishto. It says after that he buried her. Elamara sasadeh hamachpela alpene mamre. In the cave of the field of Machpelah, and he did it in front of Mamre, hu Chevron be'eretz Canaan. Uveini liveini mesaperes lanu ha'Torah kan es vikuach shel Avraham im Ephron Hachiti. And then we read about Avraham's vikuach, Avraham's back and forth with Ephron Hachiti. All about this plot where Sarah is buried. And in the end, what happens? Ephron says to Avraham, and he says, and they talk about the quantum of what they want to pay for this particular burial spot. And you can then bury your dead. Lishma Avraham el Ephraim, v'yishkal Avraham le Ephraim es hakesef asher diber b'eznei b'nei ches. And then Avraham pays for the burial spot. Arba me'er shekel. How much does he pay? 400 shekel. Kesef oivel soicher, which is silver, and that is how the Torah speaks about this interval. So now the Margolas Hashanah of Gottlieb, based on the teachings of the Bala Sulam, is going to reveal to us the deeper secrets behind this particular back and forth. It's a long piece. I don't think we're going to be able to get through all of it, but we'll try and get through as much as we can get through in the short period of time that we have. So Amar Zohar Kodesh, she brings that the Zohar says to us the following. What is this whole story about? Why is Avraham being brought into the picture in terms of burying his wife? Why is that such a central story that the Torah needs to bring to our attention? So the Zohar he brings tells us that Avraham, Zoy HaNeshama. Avraham represents the soul. Sarah, and Sarah represents the guf, the body. Kloimar, Ana lemaise bedabrim kan ala adam echad shesh lo neshama v'guf. What we're essentially talking about in a holistic picture, if we were to look at this on a deeper level, is we're talking about the duality of existence within every single person. They have a body. The body has certain needs and certain requirements and certain wants. And they have a soul. And the soul has its requirements and it has its needs. Now, what is the recognition or what is the relevance of burying Sarah? He says, it's all about bringing your body into a space of menucha. What's menucha mean? Rest. What we refer to, one of the highest levels to reach, is something called menuchas hanefesh. Menuchas hanefesh means you feel tranquil, you feel at rest, you feel joyful within the physical frameworks. Now, many people have different avenues or suppose different avenues to get there. You know, Gur mentioned this morning he likes to go for swims in the cold water. That may give a person a menucha. We have nice bagels this morning with salmon and capers and nice cut up onions. That may give a person a sense of menucha. But listen to what he says from the Zohar Kodesh. Masbir Zohar Kodesh. Shemetaras haneshama bo'elam hazeh hi lehevi es haguf le'makom menuchasei. It's a crazy statement. The purpose, he writes, of the soul is to bring the body to its place of menucha. It's crazy. If you think about that, it's quite counterintuitive. You generally think the purpose of life is to bring the soul to its state of tranquility. But he's saying no. The purpose is to bring the body into a state of tranquility. Into the place that it should feel a sense of tranquility and rest. Where does the body find rest? When it's buried. Okay, so does that mean we should just bury ourselves and get it done with? Sleep, okay, just sleep and go relax.
And the soul leaves the body.
Well, what's he saying? He's saying the opposite. He's saying that the way to bring the body into a state of rest is when the soul has actualized itself to its fullest. When the body feels, wow, I've really fulfilled myself and I really fulfilled my purpose in this world, and the fullness of my soul has been actualized, that is the highest state when the body feels a sense of tranquility. What we refer to as shleimus. Shleimus comes from the word shalem, whole, and not only that, we see from the shleimus, the wholeness of a person, that allows them to then feel shalom. It allows them to then feel a sense of peace. Kifi shanu oimrim kasher ha'adam egiya la'matara shaloi. Az hu nase bal menucha. Once you've reached your purpose, then you feel a sense of menucha. Bal shalva, you feel a sense of peace. Kevan she'egiya l'shleimus. Because you've reached your fullness. So he writes, Hamatar shel hanashama hi la'ayir b'soich adam v'lo l'seis lemenucha. Now listen to this. This is frightening. The purpose of the soul is to illuminate into the body and to, in fact, not allow the body to feel a sense of tranquility. If they are living a life of an animal. If a person is constantly living a life following their taivas, their desires, and constantly living a life of unconscious behavior, the purpose of the soul is to continually illuminate and flicker in that person, and in fact create an energy that prevents them from feeling a sense of menucha, feeling a sense of tranquility. V'lechein, anu royim harbe pamim ka'asher ha'adam chai chaim shel behema chaim shel taivas gashmius azay ein lo sipuk. We see this many times. A person may have every form of physical pleasure, they have every form of physical success, but they're lacking one fundamental thing. You know what they're lacking? Something called sipuk. Sipuk means satisfaction. Feeling a sense of satisfaction. I was speaking to someone last night. Someone came to me last night and they said to me, you know, they're in a really good place in terms of their life. They went through a lot of struggles and they're in a really good place in their life in terms of the external elements, but they're feeling fundamentally lacking. They feel like they have no purpose. And it's one of the most gaping wounds for a person to have no purpose and no fulfillment. To have everything and no purpose and fulfillment is one of the greatest vacuums of existence. Because you have nothing more to strive for from a physical standpoint. A person can always argue, you know what, if I make more, if I succeed more, if I accomplish and if I acquire more, then I'll finally feel happy. But if they have everything and they realize fundamentally they have nothing, what a sad form of existence.
What do you want to do?
I
donate to the shul.
Yeah.
Watching that forever.
And his conclusion was that he wants more spirituality in his life, and he wants to be more engaged, and he wants to get involved. Now, it's a really hard thing. Where do you start off with a person? Say, you know, cool, you know, I'm here for you. Let's do it. Sort of has to be somewhat self-led, and the person has to really materialize that consciousness and that awareness, and then you can guide them through. But essentially that was the sentiment. And that's what he's saying here. That a person can live, God forbid, in a life of emptiness. He can have everything. Physical, all of the external elements, but he doesn't have the fundamental need of life, and that's called sipuk, fulfillment, satisfaction. He lives in a state of emptiness. Einoi matzav ruach, he's got no energy. He's constantly looking for something more, or maybe something little. In the Kabbalah ba'adam margish kashem matzav mesuyam u'miyusa davema. Now, the conflict that a person faces is this fundamental lacking that they feel, this emptiness that they feel. What happens is the body generally presents it as this small thing that they're lacking in a physical level. If I go and shop and I buy this, then I'll finally feel a sense of fulfillment. If I go and I, attain that, I'll finally feel a sense of... So it gives a person these constant small carrots along the way to just distract them from their fundamental lacking. And the essential conclusion here is this is not a form of living. This is not life. And this is the purpose of the soul. The purpose of the soul, or one of its purposes, is to not allow a person to feel a sense of tranquility and rest if they're not fulfilling their purpose. That's the basic byproduct of the soul. The soul will not be happy and will not allow a person if you do not give it the fullness of its direction and what it's there for. So now, let's touch on one element of what he brought in the parasha and then we'll conclude. And this is what he says, Avraham and this is the deeper meaning behind what it means Avraham came to bury Sarah in Hebron. Why do we have to read about it? So we've identified that Avraham represents the soul and Sarah represents the body. Why are we telling us that we have to bury her in Hebron? So we understood the burial of the body. We say it's reached its final resting place. So we've understood that the soul needs to bring the body into its final resting place. How does it do that? We're going to see. What's the name of the place that she was buried? Maras HaMachpelah, which is in Hebron. So listen to what he says. Heichan keva Avraham es Sarah, where did he bury her? Bechevron, Hamaras Asad Machpelah. Masbir Rabbeinu Balasulam. The Balasulam reveals the following deep insight. Hebron, hu melashon chibur. He says Hebron, the word Hebron, has the word chibur in it. Chibur means to feel connected. The only time a person can really have a sense of tranquility is when they are mischaber, when they feel a sense of connection to Hashem, to the Creator. The Madrega Shikras Mara Sada Machpelah, he'll explain, is the level of Mara Sada Machpelah, the field of Machpelah. Oimer Zohar Kaddish, why the Zohar Kaddish brings, is it referred to as Mara Samachpelah? Kevan Shiesh Ba Mara Besoich Mara. Why is Mara Samachpelah referred to as a Mara Samachpelah? What does it mean? A Mara is a cave, and Machpelah, what's Machpelah? It's doubled. He writes, it's a cave within a cave. So if you've seen any images of the way it's built, you have to go into a cave, and then there's a cave within a cave. Why do we have to know this on a personal level? Zekemin Mokim Kafel. It's referencing a space of feeling doubled. Nikras Maras HaMachpelah, it's referred to as a doubled. Masbir Rabbeinu Balasulam Shekavan Ruchanis Hikazois. Betchila Bora Kadosh Baruch Hu Oilam Midas Adin. Rashein Oilam Eskayim Hiktim Midas Arachamim. Ushatva LeMidas Adin. Midas Adin Shoyra Al Adam Zman Shul Doyeg. Ach v'rak l'teles atzmai. V'chai chaim igod tistim. As hu noson adin. He writes like this, on a deeper level, and conclude with this paragraph. Hashem created the world, we know, with two attributes. The first attribute that God created the world with was something called midas adin. Midas adin means judgment. Hashem created the world in a state where 1 + 1 = 2. And if you don't fall into the rule system that the world functions within, you're not going to survive. Person doesn't fit into the frameworks of the Torah. It's just the outcome is going to be a sense of suffering. That's the Midas Adin. And he says on a deeper level, which then God went and changed, he saw that the world can't function on that level. he created something called Midas HaRachamim. Midas HaRachamim was there's a bit of a buffer zone now. There's a bit of compassion. There's a bit of space. There's a bit of room for failure. Now he says on another level is the following. There's two frequencies that a person can live within. The first frequency is something called Midas Hadin. Midas Hadin means judgment. And he writes, when does that frequency exist in a person's life? When they live from a space of their body and from their selfish mindset. When a person lives in that framework, that they see themselves not as a neshama, and they're not focusing on the neshama, but rather they're seeing themselves as a body, as a physical form entity. And that's their focus. He says what happens is they now live in a state of din. Din now means a state of judgment. There's going to be a repercussion for that behavior. And what is that repercussion? Din mashmuse hagvala v'tzimtzum v'hastara. What does din mean? Din literally means boundaries. It literally means judgment. So what does it mean that a person who lives in an egoic state of mind? It means that they feel a sense of constriction. What do you say?
It's different planet. You can't live like that. It's not.
You say you can't live
Very
detached.
few people that can.
Well,
Like a Ram
But you need to wish for.
Kanievski or.
The campus you can show where I want to go.
right. Well, so what Lawrence is saying is, how is this possible? I mean, we all live in this world. We all have physical bodies. We all need to eat. We all need to succeed. We all need to have those elements. You can't detach yourself entirely from this world. That's what Lawrence is saying. And 100%, you're going to see that it's a doubled over cave. He's going to write that, and this is the Chiddush, it's all about the body. It's all about giving a sense of tranquility to the body. But the tranquility to the body is not reached when a person lives only on the platform of their ego and their body. What he's saying is that tranquility is reached when they have context of why they're living this world, and they're functioning not only from the body, but they're functioning from the neshama. And they realize, you know what? My whole purpose here is not to just feed my body, not to just amass that experience of pleasure within the body sense and with the form sense of who I am. But my goal in life is to engage with my soul. How do I engage with the presence of my soul? What does my soul want me to do? How does my soul want me to function? And that's the balance, right? And he's saying the outcome of a person who doesn't feed their soul is a person that lives in a state of Midas Hadin. Midas Hadin, again we said, is the experience of constriction. They feel constricted in life. So the outcome of feeling constricted is they're constantly looking of how to push the ante. So they're looking for new experiences to feel less constricted. Maybe they need to travel, maybe they need to buy a new car, maybe they need to feel a sense of pleasure, maybe they need a new acquisition or accomplishment. That is trying to push outside the constriction, but they're essentially living constricted. Shloi margish sipuk b'chaim. Margish reikonis. It doesn't feel any satisfaction, doesn't feel any fullness, he feels empty. The kaduch, atzvus, v'dichayin. He just has a sense of depression and emptiness. Adam shoylech v'deraseh shel ava atzvis. When a person is solely focused on the form element of who they are and filling that. Lo nimtzo so sameach simcha amitis. He doesn't have true simcha. Hu yachol lahanois midei pam metanugim shel basa v'chedoime. He can eat nice meat. He can experience nice things. But at the end of the day, he comes home to emptiness. Aval elu lo yitvarim shenoisim la'adam simcha. Ze asui letzeis lechaya simcha. This is not given to man. That's why he makes a mistake. You look at an animal, and an animal enjoys its food. But that's an animalistic element. Human element is, yes, we also have an ego, we have a body, we can enjoy the food, but to stop there on that dimension and not take it to the next dimension, which is the dimension of the soul, a person is going to live essentially lacking. Aval loy la'adam tzarech, adam tzarech lichiyos chaim shel adam. A person needs to live in a state of adam. So he goes on to explain what the different other terminologies are brought in the parasha. Why Ephron? What does Ephron represent? It represents a dust. Why does it go into the 400? Why is there back and forth? So he goes on to show all of the different journeys the soul needs to go on to actualize itself, to then fundamentally come back to bring one accomplishment, and that is menuchas hanefesh, the menucha of the body, that the body is able to find its rest, that the body is able to find its peace. And only once Avraham comes to bury Sarah, only once the soul gets involved, is it able to then give the body a sense of tranquility. And this is just a little bit of a taste into the parasha to understand the deeper meaning behind what's transpiring. Please God, Hashem should help us all to have a healthy guf, but at the same time to understand that the ultimate health of our guf, of our body, is found in the focus and the fullness of our soul, and actualizing our soul presence and our soul connection and our soul purpose. Only once we reach that does our body really feel a sense of menucha. So,
By the way, I heard